Hello and welcome to our next edition of Panther Chats. I'm Jamie Jackson, Senior Admissions Counselor here at Kentucky Wesleyan. Today with me we have our Assistant Professor of Mathematics, Dr. Kyle Biesing. How are you doing today, Mr. Biesing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you. So we'll just jump right into this with mathematics. What is it? Why is it important? And how is mathematics unique to KWC versus other colleges?
Well, I mean, mathematics is definitely something that if you talk to someone like myself, they'll tell you it's very important. I like to think of mathematics not so much as like the study of numbers, because to a lot of people's dismay, at a certain point, there stops being a lot of numbers. Where they keep like, why are there a lot of letters on the board instead of numbers?
Right.
To me, a lot of mathematics is just about critical thinking and using logic. And a lot of times it's easier for us to critically think and use logic whenever we can quantify things with numbers. And so we use numbers a lot. But at its core, it's really just about finding truth. What is true and what is not true. And that's going to be something that's really important to a lot of people. I mean, in the world that we live in, there's lots of things that you encounter on a daily basis that you have to decide what is true and what is not true. And a lot of times mathematics can be a tool to help you decide that. In a more practical aspect, you know, everybody has to take math at Kentucky Wesleyan. So regardless of how you feel about it, like it's going to be something that you're going to encounter. The faculty here at Kentucky Wesleyan is a little unique. We have 3 faculty in math right now, and all 3 of us have taken part in the Mathematical Association of America's Project Next, which is a competitive year-long program for recent math PhDs who want to learn more about best practices for teaching. So all of us here at KWC have gone through this program, and we offer a very interactive and hands-on approach to the understanding of mathematics. The analogy that I like to use is I see that you know a little bit about basketball, right?
A little bit, yeah.
But when you went to learn how to play basketball, you wouldn't have like listened to someone explain the rules of basketball and then maybe watched some people play basketball and then be like, all right, I'm good. Like, let's go, right? But for a lot of people, that's their experience in how they learn math, right? Someone tells them a little bit about math, they watch some people do math, and then like they're expected to know math. But the faculty here at Wesleyan have a very strong belief in that to know how to do math and to learn how to do math, you have to do math. And so we try to get out of the student's way and let them investigate what they're learning and experience what they're learning instead of just listening to us talk.
That's really awesome. I've never thought about it that way, but you're 100% correct. And with anything, practice makes perfect, and the same thing with math. The more you do it, the better you'll be at it.
Right.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about your background. What led you to teach mathematics and have that love for it?
Sure. So growing up, I always found math interesting. It wasn't necessarily that it was easy or anything like that. It was just, I found it interesting. But whenever I started college, I did my bachelor's degree at the University of Southern Indiana. I actually entered undecided. And I was like, well, I always thought math was interesting, so let me take some math classes. So I signed up for some math classes, and I really liked them. And so my first change of major was undecided to secondary education mathematics. And I was like, I want to teach math. And I kept taking more math classes, and I got into the higher level math classes. And I was like, okay, I want to keep doing math because I find this really interesting. And so that was when I decided I was going to go to graduate school. I still loved the idea of teaching. I just wanted to teach at a higher level. So I got my bachelor's in math with a minor in physics at USI. And then I went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham and got a master's and a PhD in applied mathematics. And I got another minor in physics in my PhD. So technically I'm a mathematical physicist.
Nice.
But it's the physics kind of, we have a physical motivation to what we do, but after we get past that, it's really just a bunch of math. But that's what I did in grad school. But since then, I'm becoming more and more interested in math education and current like best practices for teaching math and trying out new techniques.
Nice. Right. And how long have you been at Kentucky Wesleyan?
I started in 2015.
Nice. And this is kind of off a little bit, but what brought you to Wesleyan?
So I grew up in the area, about an hour away. And I really liked the area. And so we were trying to, my wife and I were trying to move back to where, to this area where we were familiar. And even though I went to USI, which isn't like a small school in the terms of like a Kentucky Wesleyan,
Right.
the math program, the math department was rather small. And that one-on-one interaction that I had with faculty was something that I really appreciated, and I felt like it had an impact on my education. And so whenever I was looking at places I wanted to apply, I wanted that small, like personal feel.
Right.
And I remember on my interview at Kentucky Wesleyan, I came towards the end of the spring semester, and while I was chatting with some of the other faculty were talking about the fall semester and what classes needed to be offered. And they were rattling off students, and they were like, well, this student needs to have this class, so we need to make sure that that's offered and whatever. And they didn't have any like notes in front of them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, the faculty here really know their students. And that's really what I'm looking for. And I mean, my interview was great. I loved my visit here, but like that was the point that stuck out to me in my interview, that I was like, the faculty here really buy into what I'm looking for, about really knowing our students and having that individual attention to the students that come through our programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to talk about me too much, but that's kind of the same thing that brought me here. Was I'm originally from about 45 minutes south of Owensboro, and knowing about it and always kind of being around Wesleyan. And as a basketball player coming up, I mean, they won 2 national championships whenever I was in like 7th grade and 9th grade, I do believe. So this was kind of a big deal for me. But then, talking about the one-on-one connection that you get with these students. I mean, there's students who are just about to graduate that were part of my first class that I know really well and talk to. And, some of them I talk to on maybe not a daily basis, but at least once a week that I'm still talking to. And I'm just an admissions counselor. So being able to have that connection with people is really a great thing. So you kind of talked about some of the classes and everything, but what topics do the mathematics majors kind of have as, is it only mathematics as a major, or if they're interested in math, what other majors could they potentially be in? And then what kind of classes would these students be kind of diving into across those majors?
Yeah, so math pairs itself well with a lot of different majors. One of the things that makes it hard for students to kind of think that maybe they want to do math is because it's hard to really picture what a typical math job would be outside of like being a math teacher. And some people just aren't interested in teaching. But the thing is, if you go back to that idea that math is the idea of finding out what is true or what is not true, and using critical thinking and logic, then all of a sudden it makes sense that this pairs with a lot of different things. We have a lot of double majors that do math and chemistry because they're interested in kind of like the computational side of chemistry. Mathematical biology is a big thing that's going on in the world right now. You need people who understand enough biology to be able to model these things that are happening in the world, but they need to know enough math to be able to like do the modeling,
Right.
you know, on the computer. We have students who have been interested in like actuarial science, which is like big data, statistic kind of thing that pairs well with business classes. You know, if you pair with like an economics minor, you can get into econ or finance. And so because our main goal is to teach you how to think critically and how to think in a logical way, then you can take those skills and apply them to any industry. So it really gives you kind of a large selection of careers that you could take that those are skills that are going to be valued anywhere.
Yeah, nice, nice. So a lot of students are worried about like internships and what kind of hands-on job experience they can get while they're in school. And, you know, that's critical because a lot of times it's more of the people who have experience coming out of college are going to be the ones who are chosen over others who just have a degree, because there's less training that's involved and stuff like that. So at Wesleyan, what kind of hands-on learning opportunities? I mean, I know you already mentioned the one at the beginning, but what else do they have for the students here at Wesleyan in the hands-on learning opportunities for these students?
Right. So whenever we have people that come in that are interested in doing math, they kind of fit in three different categories. They're either interested in doing secondary teaching, moving on to graduate school, or going into industry. So obviously, if you come in and you want to be a teacher, the education program here is phenomenal, and they do a great job of getting you experience in the schools and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in going to graduate school, then the best thing that we can do for you is that we can have you take part in undergrad research. So Dr. Trulin, one of the other professors here, has several students that he's worked with on actually doing math research. They've presented at some conferences. I've had a student come through and do some real world kind of computer projects using their math background. And so we have some opportunities for undergraduate research. And then for those students that are interested in industry, we can work with them about what exactly they're interested in applying their math to about finding an internship. We had a recent graduate that did internships with a local business, doing like data analysis, helping them kind of project sales and needs and that kind of stuff. We have some students that are interested in like sports analytics, and I know at least one of them is working at, works with doing some stats with the athletics department. Right. And so because math itself is versatile, what we can do is we can partner with those students to be like, what is it that you're interested in doing? And then finding an opportunity for them to do it. And so it just depends on kind of what their career goals are and to what that would look like.
Yeah. And you were saying the sports aspect of it. I know the NBA has really made a push for the analytics and, what is the most efficient shots and all that. And the big example of that is Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets. And they take layups and threes because threes are, even though it's a more difficult shot, they're worth so much more percentage-wise, and then layups are the highest efficiency shot. So that's something that really interested me, was just the math side of that type of stuff. So you piqued my interest when you were talking about sports there. So the next question may be the most difficult. Not really. What is your favorite thing about the program at Kentucky Wesleyan? I mean, we've covered a lot of things that you liked whenever you came over and everything, but if you can kind of pinpoint one thing that is your favorite, what would it be?
Well, I think kind of tying it all together is the relationship that we develop with our students. It opens a lot of doors that we have all of our faculty all in the same place with the ideas for how they want to teach and that they want students to lead their learning. And so because you have a small number of students who are in the program, they're very comfortable with each other. They get used to that idea of students are going to lead and they have to work together. And so not only do we build close relationships with our students, but the students themselves build close relationships and they learn to work together and to rely on one another. And so as they progress through the program, we get to become just kind of like a guide, like just do a little course correction and they keep working and they keep building off of each other. And watching that development is so fulfilling. I had a student who graduated a couple years ago that commented he was a student athlete and he had a recruit on campus, and he said, like, I'm closer with the people who are in my math classes than I am some of my family. Like, they develop that relationship because they're just constantly working together and encouraging each other, because that's the classroom environment that we foster, because we're all on the same page and we're all doing the same thing. And it's a really special thing to watch.
Absolutely. How many students do you think you teach in a semester?
So predominantly, I teach a lot of the general education students as well. Mm-hmm. So we have about 10 to 12 majors at any given time. And so those classes are really small, which is also nice. But most semesters I teach 2 sections of our general education probability and statistics class. And those are about 20 students apiece. And I really find that's a really interesting class because I get a mix of students who are in there for various different reasons. Mm-hmm. And I'm very cognizant of the fact that not all of them necessarily are excited to be in a math class. And so I try to steer away from too much calculations and more about big picture things. A lot of these students, this is the last math class they're going to take. And so we try to just talk about how you can use statistics and understand statistics in your daily life. And the broad range of examples means that we have a broad range of topics that we talk about. Yeah. And so that's most of the students that I teach every semester are actually non-math majors, who I'm trying to instill a little bit of what I feel about mathematics in them before they're done taking their math classes.
Yeah. So, what do you think? 60 to 80 students per semester, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that is that, you were talking about the small class sizes and being able to get this relationship with students. It's a lot easier for a professor to have those one-on-one relationships, to be available at random times for these students whenever you're teaching less than 100 students per semester, as opposed to some of the larger schools where they're teaching 100 people in a classroom Monday, Yeah. So that's also something that I really like about Wesleyan, and something that I preach to our students whenever I'm talking to them, that with such small class sizes and the professors having a small group that they teach per semester, you are going to get that one-on-one time with them. And they're going to know who you are as a person, what you want to do when you graduate, and be able to help you a lot better. And, to use the old cliche, they're not just a number. They are a person with thoughts, dreams, hopes that we are going to invest ourselves in.
Yeah, in fact, my personal goal at the start of each semester is that I know every one of the students in my class's name by the end of the first week.
Wow.
And, I do that. And a lot of what I do in these general education classes is I make them the very first week write me a math autobiography that talks about their experiences in math and what has gone well and what hasn't gone well and what are they interested in doing with this class as far as their career goes. And I tell them that, like, I'll rewrite the examples that we do in class based on what the class is interested in. I had a lot of baseball players in one class, and so we did a lot of baseball statistics. Nice. I had a lot of zoology majors in one class, and so I looked up animal statistics, and we did stuff like that. Although maybe my favorite section was I had a section where I had a good number of students who were interested in Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, wow.
So we did some Dungeons and Dragons statistics for a little bit, but that's not common. I haven't got to recreate that, but I generally do have a lot of student athletes and a lot of zoology or other science majors in there. And so we have fun tailoring the examples that we do based on what they're interested in, because I mean that's what they're going to use it for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I can already speak to your acumen with that, because you started talking about a little bit with sports, and I started spilling out stuff about the NBA. So that's really awesome. And that's, once again, that's one of the great things about being in a small school. You get to tailor what you're doing with your lesson plan to those students and what they love. And that, I think, helps with them being successful, them being interested in it. Because you were talking about a math autobiography, and I was thinking, well, mine's more of a horror story than an autobiography, because I'm not good at math. But if you get me talking about basketball statistics, just sports statistics in general, I'm going to be much better at it, because that's stuff that I've been doing my whole life.
Right.
Yeah. So the last thing, is there anything else you want to add about the math program, or anything that you would like to plug about Wesleyan before we get off the call?
We hope to see you at Wesleyan, and when you enroll in that math class that you have to take, don't panic. We're all very nice, and we're all interested in you doing well, regardless of what your backgrounds are. If any of this piqued any of you students' interest, we do have a math club that you do not have to be a math student to be. Most of our math club members are not math majors or even science majors. We generally meet, we talk about interesting things that you can apply math to. And a lot of times it's a video that we watch and then discuss. And so it's very non-math intense. But if you're interested, that you want to do business, or that you want to do graphic design, but maybe some of this stuff's interesting, join the math club.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. B. Singh, for joining us today. Hopefully we will have some of the people that are watching this on Facebook Live join us and be part of the math club, and also be math majors as well. So thank you. Have a great day.
You too.